what do you guys think is the biggest difference between Melee and Nick All Stars right now?
The air dash.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty unique movement option that I like. I was hoping that Nick All-Stars would be a little different from Melee in terms of his movement options. So the air dash is, I think it's 8-way, right? It's
8-way.
Yeah.
And there's no There's no angles.
Yeah, there's no angles. I think it's cool because you have like different landing mix-ups. You can shark with it, which is super dope. You can edge guard with it. And then the one thing that is like you can't really dash dance. The grounded movement is like nowhere nearly as good in Nick All Stars. You also can't like run through each other. I don't know if you guys noticed.
Yeah.
So like
collision, they call it in the old.
Yeah, so footsies aren't really a thing. Like you can kind of strafe on people. I think there's potential there. We saw PP do it earlier.
You saw I do that.
Yeah. But yeah, the air dashes are cool.
The one thing I will say is that, so I had the same impression even from the trailers, right? Like when I watched the trailers, I was like, this game is going to be all about aerial mobility. And it was actually a big part of the reason I was like, man, I'm worried about Toph because I know they're going to make her a Little Mac kind of character with all ground, nothing in the air. The one thing I will say, Wave Dash is a lot less laggy in this game. You are in a lot less lag than you are in Melee, and you can move really fast. There's a technique that people aren't doing right now, which is you can buffer your air dash in jump squat. So in Melee, you need to time your air dodge as soon as you leave the ground to get your perfect wave dash. In this game, you can just press jump and air dash at the same time. And what you can actually do is you don't need to angle wave dash. You can actually air dash straight left and right on the ground. And you can actually use that to pseudo dash dance. It's just really tiring. And I have a fatty callus on my index finger from playing this game for 10 hours yesterday. And I've played Melee for 13 years, and I've never had a callus this bad on my index finger. So just to show you, like, how much more, like, I think people might end up using that to, like, get some semblance of dash dancing in the longer run. And I also think the other thing that's really crazy right now is, like, I think people are really unoptimized with what they do off grabs, because when you think about it, it's kind of really easy to get a grab in this game, because guarding feels really strong, and you can grab in the air, so you can just air dash on someone, you can just pull up and grab. And I think people aren't doing much of it right now, but like, I mean, every character has cargo throw, which is really good. And if people start learning some basic throw follow-ups with their characters, I think grabbing is going to start becoming really strong.
Dude, computers were grabbing me out of my combos, and I was maulding. I actually think grabbing out a combo is kind of good. Yeah, it's kind of
funny.
Because it's so fast. Like it's faster than your attacks come out for most characters. So you can actually get people that are trying to like catch you jumping away or something.
And just grab them. I've done that by accident, honestly.
Yeah, it's super funny.
Yeah.
None. Do you want to talk about air dashing, or I can? I don't know what you want to do.
I keep forgetting it. I keep forgetting it's a thing, but I do it every now and then. Yeah, I think the only thing for me, I'm not used to just the X button. I always got to look at the controller. This button on the right of the A button is for strong attacks. And I don't really press that button at all in Melee, so I guess it's just, you know what I mean? It's just
I hate having to use X.
And I'm like, why can't I kill? Why can't I kill? Oh, that's right, because I'm using light attacks. You got to use strong attacks. So, stepping outside of your comfort zone. So it's all new. It's all interesting right now. I feel like we're mashing a bit too much attacks, but it will come to a point where, as Toph said, we start optimizing and we start to like find better like, follow-ups instead of just, because right now it's just like, oh, it feels like Melee. It feels really dope. But eventually I'm excited to see how the game evolves,
When I've watched other people play, and something I really noticed when playing Zane was how much, like, if you wanted to, you could play at an insane tempo in this game. In order to do that, you have to just keep pressing the trigger button. And this is something that's kind of related for me. I have to hold the strafe button down all the time, or I will be turning around a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm holding the strafe, and then I'm also pushing with the other trigger. And I normally only press with one trigger for everything in Melee. So that's part of why I don't guard. And so like doing all of this trigger stuff, it feels like Toph was kind of saying, it's really tiring because I'm holding something down the whole time, and then I'm also pressing a lot to do a bunch of stuff. So I feel like playing in a crazy tempo is just like, for accessibility reasons, I feel like it's just going to be hard, right? Because people are just going to be holding stuff all the time. But I also think that there were times where I was going at a slower pace and I didn't really feel like I was necessarily getting outsped. And that's partly because Leonardo has really big aerials, which is part of why I wanted to play him, because I didn't want to play like a crackhead in this game, because it's not going to be my main game. But I think that the air dash, if you want to play that way, I like that that's the option. I guess it'd be kind of cool if there was a little more balance, but there was a little bit of ground stuff I was trying to do that I think can have utility. And I think it's a little, I mean, you can make this analogy like Puff, where like she's in the air a lot of the time, but when she makes the air to ground transition, her ground moves are stronger because you're not sure if she's going to be in the air again, or when she hits the ground, what she's going to do, or if she's just going to back up. And so I think like this game will have that's not the same thing, obviously, because you're much faster, but it's like, are you going to jump again when you hit the ground, or are you going to stay on the ground and do a different type of ground mix up? And I think that'll probably be kind of strong. And I think that's where like the air dash utility will equalize some of the air ground movement. But again, I think if you want to play like an air crackhead, you can.
I think one thing that this game makes me really appreciate in Melee is like, and I don't know, man, I feel like a lot of platform fighters that I've tried besides Melee have not really, I don't know, put this, like gotten this right. But one thing that I think is really cool in Melee is like, I really love how variable the hit stun is in Melee. Like, you know, you've got really, really fast strings of attacks, just like in this game. But then and then suddenly, you know, then you've got situations where like, you know, Falcon hits a stomp or something. And there's almost like this pause and he can do whatever, you know, like there's different combos feel very different. And there's a lot of things, and yet Melee is very balanced at the top level, which I think is kind of cool. Whereas like, I feel like in this game, most of the long combo stuff is it's the same tempo. It's like pop, 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 pop.
And it's often the same move a lot of the time too.
Yeah.
And in Melee, there's some of that, but it feels very different, or you have to turn around, or you have to do a bunch of different stuff. In this game, you just
I think the reason for that is because of this game just being digital. Because you can't do those analog inputs, you can't like slight. You know what I mean? You can't reduce your tempo ever so slightly. You got to keep going at that steady digital pace, and that's what I think.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, every character's combo tree seems like rhythmically the same, and also like the paths are also very. You either go like up, up, up into strong aerial, or like
off
just
stage,
like
down,
spike
down,
them
down.
down. Yeah, down, down, down. Yeah, it's just different ways of carrying them, and every character's combo tree is like really, really similar.
It feels that way, at least right now. I mean, there's some characters that give me a lot of hope, which is like Powder Toast Man. I think his like the Toast Shine is awesome. I really, really like that character. But yeah, it feels right now like the characters that don't adhere to, like there's almost like a gold standard of what a Nick All-Stars character should be like. And that's characters like Oblina, characters like CatDog, characters like April honestly feels this way to me, where there's like certain criteria your character should hit. And then the characters that don't meet those criteria, characters like Korra, for example, or Patrick, it feels like they're just really weak. Granted, this is a really early impression, but
everyone says Patrick's bad. I will say that.
I think I don't really like the idea of patches unless you're banning stuff that's like infinites or like stalling stuff. Because I think I was talking about this earlier, but like you got to give the game some time to breathe, so that you can have like like Smash like games are cool because you have a lot of free movement and time to like become solution oriented, and they grant you that creativity. And when you just immediately patch it, you're kind of depriving a player of being creative on their own. So I hope that they don't overpatch it, and if they do, I hope they do it for a bit and then kind of like hands off once they find that like they found the right formula.
Okay, I was just gonna say the way I liked patches was the way that Brood War did patches, where they did stuff a little bit early on, like Zane saying, and then once every I don't know, year, 2 years, or whatever it was, they would patch like some smaller stuff, but of course it would have a big impact because it's all related to everything else. And so it would take time for things to coalesce around that. They're looking at how that's going on, and then they do more. Now, of course, when the game comes out, maybe there are broken things. Maybe there are just undeniable infinites or whatever, and so you have to do that. But yeah, patch culture, and it's tough because like as a developer, you want people to stay engaged, and one of the easiest ways to do that is just say, "Oh, look, we changed things. This is different. So this character that you hate, it's now easier. So you can stop complaining about it on Twitter and Reddit and Twitch chat. So now you can enjoy the game." But then there's a counter response where everyone's like, "Okay, well, I played this character and you nerfed him into the ground. I don't want to play the game anymore. I got the game for this character, or what I've spent all the time, and now I don't want to do that anymore." And so and then what happens is whenever someone is like losing and they get mad, they're just like, "Well, I just hope this gets patched out." And there's like not as much personal responsibility on that, and not everyone's like that, but a lot of people are in patch games, and so patch culture is something that's always kind of bothered me. And so again, I'm like Zane, where I think that some can be okay, but I also want to tell people to get
So,
good?
I've played a couple games at like a reasonably high level, like tournament level with patches. And it's weird to call this a skill, but I almost feel like reading the developer's intent and knowing what to specialize in is a skill. And what I mean by that is having everything I've seen out of the Nick All-Stars developers is like they're kind of down for some goofy stuff. So I think certain things like will get patched out. I think the Sandy Infinite, Michelangelo stalling in the air forever, like Luigi laddering on his own, basically.
Yeah.
Probably those get patched out. They're not fun. They're like way too centralizing. But like for example, like I kind of think that a lot of the silly stuff probably will stay. That's my impression. Almost knowing like what to invest in is, or like trying to figure out what to invest in. And like, that's why there's going to be a lot of attention on the early patches. Cause like, we're going to see what they let, like even Ultimate was the same way, right? Like I remember the first patch for Ultimate, I was so scared because I played Inkling and I was like, man, if they nerf up throw up air, I'm literally going to quit the game. And they didn't. And I was like, okay, so they didn't nerf up throw up air. They clearly knew it existed. Like that means at least I have this kill confirm. And I would have switched characters right there if they did, because then that would clearly indicate to me that would have indicated to me that not only would my character Inkling have become a lot worse, but it would also indicate that they're not down for throw-based kill confirms. So then when I switch character, I would not pick another character that had a throw-based kill confirm. I would pick characters that didn't need combo setups to get kills. You know what I mean? So I would read what they nerf to decide what I think is worth picking up or what I think is worth investing in.
Big brain. I'm not really of the type that thinks that way as well, that, you know, like, I hope they nerf this, I hope they nerf that, but I personally would be happy if they buff some things, you know, like, I don't know, I'm embarrassed when people come into my chat and say, oh, Korra is the Ganon of Nick, and I'm like, oh, no, she's not, nope, she's not. And I'm like, I can't even play her, because, I mean, I don't know if there's some secret tech, but I can't play her, I think she sucks. But, you know what I mean? But in secret, yeah, we're just hoping in secret practicing the character, and maybe she gets buff in one of these patches, you know? You never know, it could happen.
The one buff I really want for Toph, if you guys have seen her forward animation, she does a little slap, and this chain of rocks comes out of her arm. Like she like whips this rock whip, right? Mm-hmm. The rock whip is just a visual effect. It doesn't have a hitbox.
They don't do anything.
Sad about it. No, they don't do anything. She has no range on that move.
I saw you talking about that. That's rough.
Yeah, and I'm almost like, wow, why did you? It looks like I saw the move and I was like, oh, that looks really good. And then I messed it and I was like, oh, why did they even animate it? I want to give the devs a lot of credit here. I know they were working super duper hard. Like they were working up until release, I heard. So there's like definitely a lot of stuff they're going to tweak. I think even some of the like literally the visuals might even change from what I've heard. Like I know they're working really hard on stuff. And so I almost wonder if it was like an unfinished thing. Like kind of the way Game & Watch is in Melee. Like there's a lot of speculation that Game & Watch was literally an unfinished character. And I wonder if that's what's going on, because I think Toph was one of the last characters they designed.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think because everyone's mostly talked about Nick, and I wanted to, answer the other part of the question. What I've liked about Melee not having patches, yeah, we had, PAL and everything, but we don't use that. So what I've liked about Melee not having patches is so much about our perspective on the game has changed. Like there was a point where some people thought Falco was the best. There was a point where people thought Puff was the best, and then there's still like some divided opinions over that. And, like if the game came out and then the developers in like 2003 saw that like, Ken Marth was winning everything, it'd been a lot harder for Zane today. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
So,
Imagine.
Yeah.
This is killing narrative.
Yeah. So I feel like just the way that things have evolved through players has been great. And there's even been stuff, right? Like where some characters have risen up over time. Like, Puff was thought to be terrible at one point, and then she came up to be mid-tier and then high tier, and some people think she's top tier and all that stuff. But some people, that same thing happened with Yoshi, was the most recent character, but it's happened with Icy. So I think it's just kind of a cool thing about Melee is you can kind of make some of the tier changes yourself. You can be your own patch.
Yeah, imagine a world where I'm just playing versus Axe and I lose, and I'm like, you know what? That up B is too broken. Like, so trying to figure out a way to like edge guard, like it's too broken. Just someone patch it.
Michelangelo has a move that's like Pikachu's up air. It's got
patch
like
it.
5 hitboxes.
Patch it.
Michelangelo, I think
That's not
it's
how
up
you
air,
do
it might
it.
be down air.
Get on Twitter and you tweet it out.
Yeah, you definitely tweet it.
Oh, true.
What would really sell you, maybe from a bigger picture perspective, that is like oh, they're really dedicated towards making this the perfect game, or is it like they are putting prize pots, or what would attract you to switching over?
Tommy.
What did you
What'd
say?
you say? Money?
Tommy. No, not money. Tommy
Like Tommy Pickles?
from the Rugrats.
You want to play as Tommy Pickles?
Yeah.
Why do you like Tommy so much?
I don't know. I like this voice always for some reason.
Dude, his voice is great. I feel
Yeah.
for me, the thing that's been look, if they would change two things, I would like it more. I think maybe three. If they change the strafing system, which they're not going to do, but if they somehow did, that would be awesome because holding that button down is a real pain. The other thing is, I would love for
How
them
would they
to
change it? How do you want them to change it?
Well, I think one of the easiest, like simplest things I could do is just make it a toggle. And so you
Ooh.
just push the button and then you're just facing that way.
You're
Then
in
you
that
push the button.
mode.
Yeah. So I just wouldn't have to be
Yeah.
holding it, and then that frees up my brain to do the other
Because
inputs.
I don't strafe as much as you do. Because I was trying to do more of the crackhead stuff, and but like I think strafing like makes it way better to like zone.
The
yeah.
one thing strafing's really good for if you want to do the crackhead stuff is like for example retreating downers. Like if I want to do a bunch of like retreating downers or like downers facing the same way, which is pretty good for combos sometimes. Because with your forwarder or your nair, whatever you want to call it, you could just use the C stick and you're always going to face the way you want. But with downers, up airs, then you might want to strafe.
I mean, I think that you probably will have to be strafing just so you have a bunch of control. Like the way I think about it is if you're not strafing, if someone attacks you at a timing that you didn't expect and you suddenly have to face them, maybe you don't press the button in time or you press it when you're facing the other way and now you're just strafing the wrong way or something. And I think that would be pretty bad. So that's why I just decided that it's just better to always strafe. Now, ideally, if I played a lot, I would just know when I could and couldn't because I just have really clean tech, but I don't really anticipate that. But anyway, I think the strafing system, even if it's just a toggle, would be a big improvement. And that would change a lot of things and make it just easier mentally and technically to play. The other thing is, I don't really know if this is like, this would not have an easy fix, but like just the combo system of just like mashing the same move and just doing it really fast is not a tempo that I don't feel good about it. Like I'm just like, this feels just like a pretty raw execution test. And I just have to do this as fast as possible. And then maybe at a certain point I have to wait for a jump and I have to kind of guess where that could be, but it doesn't feel satisfying. And I think part of that is also just maybe like the sound design where like the hits don't feel as impactful too. So I think there's like a multi-layered part to it, but I think mostly it's the execution for me. So that's the second part. And then there was a third thing, but I have forgotten it. But anyway, those are two that would, if like, it's either that or like the way, or like maybe make the ground stuff a little more impactful or change the way like air dash interacts with ground. So like if you air dash shortly off the ground, like you slid a little farther, so you could do something different with that. So you could at least like air to ground a little differently. That might be kind of fun.
Yeah, mine might be like, yeah, the mashing thing definitely feels like mashing gets you far sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know, some kind of punishment. I don't know, like the more like instead of staling moves, another punishment could be the more you use a move, the more landing lag it has a little bit, like that could be.
Oh yeah, or it shrinks the hitbox slightly or something.
It shrinks hitbox, so
that way you can't use it as easily to combo.
Exactly, and then you gotta like switch it up, right?
Yeah.
That
I have
like
PTSD from. I will say I have PTSD from those suggestions because, man, there's a character in Guilty Gear Strive who has a mechanic where it alters the size of his hitboxes based on a resource, and I hate fighting the character because I feel like I can't build muscle memory against them because their his moves are always growing and shrinking. And so I think I'm spaced correctly, or I think I have frame advantage or something. So I mean, there's a way to do it, but it feels really weird to fight characters with variable hitbox sizes. I
mean, maybe you don't shrink it by a lot, just a little bit.
It'd be that, and the other thing would be the recoveries for some characters just recover like super free. Like you saw me with Michelangelo, I was all the way down and I was still recovering, and then
I agree. I think some recoveries are insane, but then like the powdered toast man,
yeah.
God.
That one, another one is Korra. I don't think her recovery is good. Ren and Stimpy, I'm like, oh, what is this? So like the recovery alone, it's like everyone is a Falcon in Melee, but like 5 times as worse as the recovery,
Some recoveries, I feel like I try to hit them and it just goes through me. So like the good, really good recoveries just like go through my moves, and I'm just like, well, I mean that
Yeah,
might
no-
just be scrubbiness, and so whatever. But
Yeah,
you know,
Nigel
maybe-
kind of
maybe
like
that's-
spikes you all of a sudden, and he just
Oh,
goes
yeah.
through you sometimes.
Not even like money or anything, but because of like if there's like a stark difference between how like the developers treat this game versus Nintendo, like if we see support and we already are, and even just like acknowledging the player base and the competitive scene, which is something that they've already done, which is something that's super appealing if you're trying to get into it. For me particularly, I'm too zoned in on Melee to like long term really get into this game
Yeah.
like that. But it is very appreciated. I think it's especially not just from Melee, but I think we might see like a lot of switches from Ultimate people, just because you already have rollback netcode built into this, and Ultimate doesn't. You have developers who are actively listening to the competitive community, who have a good amount of knowledge about it. I think we might see it on that end, and maybe a couple Melee players get super nasty at it and compete at every tournament.
Yeah, I also want to point out that in the launch tourney I'm in, half of the people in it are from the new Smash, whereas the solely Melee representative is just me. So I think if they are, they might be
So,
targeting.
PP?
Why is that actually?
I mean, my guess is maybe they wanted to target that community more. What they said to me, which, you know, who knows what their reasoning really is, but what they said to me was, we picked people from games communities we wanted to bring in, and also that we felt fit, like Nickelodeon brands or whatever. But it's like, you really think that they would have had a problem inviting Armada? Maybe it was a ping thing, but like, that's just weird. Or maybe Axe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's
I'm clean cut. I'm ready to get slammed
Yeah,
on.
Zane.
Who
Yeah,
is
Zane.
it? I thought Melee Sad Posts is the one that organized.
That's
the
a different
tournament.
invitational.
That's
Yeah,
a
so
different
I'm
one?
in the one on twitch.tv/Nickelodeon. That's the one I'm talking about.
They could have hit up Wizzy Fan. Wizzy Fan is like perfect.
Yeah, that
I
would
think
be great.
everyone in the Melee community cusses except for PP.
And yeah,
True.
I don't cuss, but I mean, I feel like
Said.
Mars probably cusses. I talked to him today,
Mars
but I don't really
Definitely cusses.
Mars
I turned on his-
cusses.
I literally turned on his stream for 3 seconds this morning, and he was like, "This guy fucking sucks."
remember. Yeah.
Okay, never
So
mind.
I don't
Well, there
really
goes
think
that
about
theory.
Yeah, so I don't know. So maybe it was just coincidental, but maybe they just figured it would be the conversion would be better for that community.
No,
Check this
I
out,
want
check
to shout out I want to shout out the developers. Like, I really hope people don't watch this and they go like, "Oh, the Golden Guardians guys are complaining
Oh,
about."
I'm
Nick
having
Lester
a
or whatever."
blast.
Like, no, this game's super fun, and I think
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
did
the
a
game's fun.
really amazing job. And it's dope that they're putting out trailer showcases that are, you know, I mean, low key shouting at the Melee community, right? Like they're
Yeah.
saying, you know, it's like you can wave dash, and you know,
Yeah.
I remember I heard that and I felt like they were talking to me. They're like, "You can wave dash." I was like, "I can wave dash?" Nintendo's never told me I could wave dash. If anything,
very-
they told me I shouldn't. You know, so
yeah, it felt very personal.
it felt very personal. It felt nice. So
Yeah.
shout outs
Did you,
to them.
Did
They're
you feel
awesome.
seen?
Felt seen.
Yeah.
I felt seen.
Big.
I felt seen.
We can just ask the big question: what happens to Melee? Is this a Melee killer?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This was
No.
yeah,
Melee's done. Melee's
my,
done, dude.
this was my true calling. I was waiting for this my whole life.
I'll throw my Goom Wave right now. I'll throw it right now.
Throw it
You say
here.
it's
Throw it
over.
here.
Throw
Throw
it
it here.
I think
Going
it's
long.
I think it's no coincidence that the country I come from and the game I want to play start with Nick. So
Big.
Man, well,
Yeah,
they didn't invite any of the Melee players to the invitational, so I guess they
Yeah.
they
Well,
assumed
they-
that we would
they
all keep
invited
playing
me.
our game.
They knew.
They thought
They-
I was going to be
honestly-
an ambassador,
Yeah.
which was
Are
not a
you?
good move on their. Which is not a good move on their part because I'm not.
Oh shit.
I-
Are we
I
keeping
had
this in?
I had the most amount of criticisms. I feel like just in terms of that just disqualifies me.
when you really think about it, it's a Smash game. Well, a similar Smash game, but we've already had rollback in our game. So I assume this is like a bit more exciting to them. I think it's safe to say that, right? Because they get
Sure,
to play a Smash-esque game with proper online.
Head code, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
here's what I think will appeal to Melee players about the game. You're gonna have some Melee style movement, but you're gonna have some new mechanics, which will be foreign to some people, but will be normal to some others if they played other fighting games, and I think they'll like that. I also think the crackhead pacing is good for all the Fox players out there. So there will be some of them that go or at least play it a lot.
This game is way harder in your hands than Fox.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
it
gonna say
depends
that
on.
right now.
I kind of think it depends on the Fox player, but yeah, probably. It's kind of like I have this kind of theory that I think what's going to happen to Smash, and kind of I want to make a video about this too. I think what's going to happen is, like, how in the FGC, like, a lot of people, they might main one game maybe, but they usually play a lot of different games because they share a lot of similarities. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have like a PFC, platform fighter community, where a lot of people are going to start playing a lot of games that have a lot of similar crossover like that. And we'll probably get a lot of people doing that sort of thing. And so I think what we might have is people that just play more games. Now, that might not be true for Melee just because it's so hard, but I think it could be kind of true. And it might just interest more into that age instead of making people just leave outright.
You say PFC? Is that PF Chang's?
I love PF Chang's.
It was not my
I
intent,
love
but sure.
PF Chang's, dude.
PFC.
I think it's goated low key.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't my intent, but sure, Reddit.
It's just Melee just has too much history. It's in a league of its own. I think it's just probably one of you guys can explain it better, but it's just we've been through so much with the game, right? It's just, how can you find something that can replace what Melee has given us? You can't.
Good.
No, I just think that there have been, I don't know, like Rivals of Aether came out and that game's wonderful, but I mean Plup was nasty at that game, but he didn't stop playing Melee. I just don't see I don't see a game coming out that makes Melee players stop playing Melee. I don't know. It's got that secret sauce.
got the people too. It's got
Yeah.
the personality,
Yeah.
Does
the
it
narratives. Yeah, I think that's
Narratives.
important.